What's up, everyone? Welcome to the NBA Pick and Pod. We're coming at you today talking about the NBA Finals Game 2. My name's Dawson Shine, and I'm your host. So, we're going to get started by discussing what happened in Game 2 that led to the Golden State Warriors absolutely eviscerating the Cleveland Cavaliers 110-77. Not lying, actually. 33-point victory. Absolute domination, leading to the Warriors now holding a 2-0 very strong series lead in the NBA Finals, though the series is going back to Cleveland. But Cleveland hasn't really shown any indication of winning a game yet, considering they are now a minus 48 in both games for margin of victory, which is the largest for two NBA Finals games in NBA history. That's pretty bad. That means that they have lost in the past two games by a combined margin of 48 points, which is more than any other team has ever lost in the first two NBA Final games in history. That's ridiculously bad. And it means that the Golden State Warriors going into Game 3 with even more confidence. But why are they so confident? Why did it come to this absolute blowout last night? Well, we're going to get to that today. We're going to start breaking down more about what actually happened. So, starting it off, the Cleveland Cavaliers came out strong in the first quarter and even a little bit in the second quarter, distributing the ball pretty well. Kyrie was shooting decently to start. LeBron was actually being aggressive, passing it well, getting open shots for players like Iman Shumpert by driving into the paint and drawing double teams. But then Draymond Green erupted in the second quarter. He went off for 28 points in this game. It had a pretty good stat line as well, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. But those 28 points were key because they came during the stretches in the second and third quarters when the Golden State Warriors were starting to build their lead and actually come back in this game. They were down by 6 in the second quarter at one point, but they slowly came back off of threes from Curry, Thompson, and Draymond Green, as well as monster play inside by Andrew Bogut, especially in the first 8 minutes of this game. They also had great play from their bench again. Leandro Barbosa, Festus Ezeli even, Sean Livingston, Andre Iguodala, even Ian Clark. But obviously remember, they all played well because they also played a ton of minutes. The only two that were really huge contributors were Andre Iguodala and Sean Livingston, who each played more than 24 minutes last night. So, after the team started off pretty slow, the Warriors, in the first quarter and even the beginning of the second quarter, they erupted using Draymond Green's scoring outburst of 28 points, way more than he normally scores. But they also continued that burst after halftime, winning the third quarter 30-18, effectively putting the game away due to huge shots all around and great inside presence rebounding. And in the final fourth quarter, basically none of the starters played. They were playing players like Ian Clark, Leandro Barbosa, Festus Ezeli, Maurice Spates. Those are the players on the court in the fourth quarter. Draymond Green didn't see the floor at all. Steph Curry didn't see the floor. Klay Thompson didn't see the floor. I mean, they were resting after 36 minutes. That's how over this game was. They just didn't stand a chance, Cleveland. They could not get anything going in the second half at all. I mean, they got outscored by the Warriors bench 28-15 in the fourth quarter. That's pretty awful. But what happened in the beginning of the game, and the second and third quarter especially, that really led to this blowout? Well, I'm glad you asked me, because I'm going to talk about those. First of all, I want to talk about Draymond Green and how he got 28 points and hit 5 of 8 threes. Welcome to the Splash Brothers, by the way. He was incredible in the beginning of the game, taking advantage of mismatches against J.R. Smith, who was originally on him for a couple of plays, and every time he was on him, Draymond Green was aggressively attacking him in the paint and going at him. At one point, he drove all the way in, got the entry pass, posted him up, tried to get a layup, missed it, but since J.R. Smith is not nearly big enough to try and box out Draymond Green, he just waited there as Bogut tipped it up twice, grabbed the rebound again, and put it right back in without getting even a contest from J.R. Smith, who didn't even bother after that point because he was not even close to big enough to get Draymond Green. So, the Cavaliers and Tyronn Lue decided, let's switch Channing Frye, LeBron James, and Tristan Thompson as a rotating guard for Draymond Green. The problem with that was they continued to leave Draymond Green wide open, especially LeBron James. Every time LeBron James was on him on the perimeter, he would always cut inwards and cheat off of Draymond Green in order to cut off drives from Steph Curry or from Andre Iguodala, Sean Livingston, anyone who tried to drive into the paint. He would always try to cheat off of whoever he was guarding on the three-point line in order to dig and try and steal the ball. The problem with that was The Warriors continued to make the right play and pass it to Draymond Green or whoever was open from three, because LeBron did that more than 7 or 8 times that I counted in the game, where he left someone wide open on the 3-point line by attempting to cheat inwards and steal the ball. And Draymond Green made them pay. 5 for 8 from 3, 63%. That's ridiculously good, but 4 of those threes were wide open because they just left him there. Also, Channing Frye, I don't know who told him to play defense on Draymond Green so loosely, but he was always 3 or 4 steps in front of him. That's way too much room for a great passer like Draymond Green. Even when he wasn't taking threes straight over Frye's face, he was passing the ball very well inside to get easy lay-ins off of those infamous backdoor cuts that the Warriors continued to run. And also, after you get a little confidence like Draymond Green did, he started to take players off the dribble and shoot. At one point, poor Richard Jefferson was put on him, and Richard Jefferson was the second best player for the Cavaliers last night, mind you. He had 12 points on only 6 shots, the only other good player besides LeBron James. And he was stuck on Draymond Green in the third quarter. Draymond Green hit a step-back 3 over him. I felt bad because it was actually good defense, the first good defense I saw on Draymond Green for most of the night. And yet, he hit it again because he was hot. And then later on, his final 2 points was right over J.R. Smith because of the size advantage. Just could not get onto him and close out properly. So Green just hit the shot right over him mid-range. To sum it all up again, Draymond Green was wide open for most of the night because the Cavaliers' game plan was to leave the shooters wide open and cut off the drive to the paint using help defenders like LeBron James, Tristan Thompson, or even Channing Frye, actually. The problem with that was that you left Draymond Green wide open, and he's a pretty good three-point shooter. He struggled last year in the finals, but in general, he's at least an average three-point shooter, and you're leaving him wide open. That's a problem. You can't be leaving players like that wide open because he'll go out and hit 5 threes on you. They also left players like Klay Thompson wide open a couple times on down screens or just by cheating off of him again. Who cheats off of Klay Thompson? That man's a pure shooter. But the Cavaliers' game plan continued to be, let's stop drives to the paint. The only problem with that is even when they stopped the drives to the paint and forced a bad shot, they had no interior presence to rebound. All their players would help up, so you'd see, even a triple team by all the help defenders on the baseline coming up to cut off the drive in the middle of the paint, leaving 2 or 3 Warriors around the basket for offensive rebounds with great positioning boxing out. For example, Festus Ezeli had a monster slam in the second quarter off of an offensive rebound where he was basically uncontested. And a more important player for the offensive rebounding, Andre Iguodala, who scored 2 out of his 3 baskets just off of offensive rebounding by getting the ball and being wide open to dunk it back in. Just wide open, because his defenders would just be right behind him on his back trying to cheat and help on the 3-point line or on the drive to the paint. That's a huge, huge problem because this Warriors lineup is actually pretty long, especially Andre Iguodala, Festus Ezeli, Andrew Bogut, and Draymond Green are all fantastic rebounders. Obviously, you're not going to tell Steph Curry to go out there and get 3 offensive rebounds, but the rest of their lineup is pretty tall and pretty long, and they can do it if they box out properly. And if you cheat and help off of them too much, you're going to give them that inside presence that the Cavaliers did last night in order to do so. Now, that's quite a bit to talk about the Warriors, but I want to mention one more thing, which was their continued use of down screens and also flare screens on the baseline in order to get backdoor cuts wide open. There was one fantastic play by the Warriors that really summed this up. They had Sean Livingston at the top of the key, dribbling the ball, waiting for something to get open. Andre Iguodala and Steph Curry both go to cut through the paint, Curry coming from the left side of the paint, coming through it, with J.R. Smith defending him, and then Andre Iguodala standing on the right block with LeBron James guarding him. Curry ran straight at LeBron James, tapped him a little bit with his right arm. Andre Iguodala cut through between J.R. Smith, who was Curry's defender, but who leaked too far outward to try and help on Andre Iguodala. Iguodala recognized the fact that J.R. Smith was thinking he was going to switch onto Iguodala at the 3-point line, so instead of heading out to the 3-point line and letting Curry go back in for the backdoor cut, he also went straight between and split the defense of James and J.R. Smith, who was then cut off and wasn't able to recover on the play, leading to Iguodala in the middle of the paint, wide open, with LeBron rushing to try and help on him, trying to close out, hopefully, on the open layup. On top of that, Curry, who was supposed to be switched onto by James, potentially, if he had gone to the 3-point line, like they had predicted, instead cut back into the paint and cut through it, allowing Iguodala to get just a second of extra time so that LeBron James couldn't completely commit to closing out on him, because Curry was also cutting through for another backdoor cut if Iguodala couldn't get the entry pass from Shaun Livingston. It was a brilliant play design, which was basically just having both players do pin downs and having both of them cut back through the paint once the defense was confused about whether to switch or not and guard the three-point line. It was brilliant, and it worked perfectly because it got Andre Iguodala the lay-in and one because LeBron closed out a little too late, fouling him on the arm. It was a brilliant play design by Steve Kerr and also brilliant execution by the players, but it also showed the undisciplined nature of the Cavaliers' defense, with LeBron James consistently trying to do everything on his own, helping off on defenders, and trying to guard everyone else's man. Like, he wasn't supposed to switch onto Curry, he should have stayed with Iguodala, but instead, he got pinned down by Curry, decided a switch was necessary, and J.R. Smith wasn't quick enough to react and be notified in order to actually switch onto Iguodala properly. I'm sorry, but this game showed that LeBron really doesn't trust his teammates, especially on the defensive end. I can't tell you how many times you saw him trying to guard someone else's man on a drive to the hoop, or switch when it really wasn't necessary, just so that he could try and guard the man who had the ball, or who he thought was going to get the ball. That's a problem because it leaves other players on the team, on the Cavaliers, confused about who to guard, and it leads to unnecessary switching that results in open layups like Iguodala's. On top of that, it also shows the undisciplined nature of the Cavaliers' defense as a whole. Tyronn Lue, as the coach, should really be indicted for this because he has shown that he does not know how to stop this Warriors offense. I mean, he's giving up open three-point shots by Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, so that he can try and stop drives to the paint, but he overcommits people and tells them to guard the drives to the paint so much that it leads to open positioning inside, especially for rebounding, offensive rebounding, and it leaves shooters like Draymond Green wide open on the perimeter. And if he gets going, and you continue with your defensive plan, which Tyronn Lue continued to play like, and continued to tell his teams to run, at least presumably because they did run it, then you get 5 threes dropped on you. That's not good. And he needs to be able to react quicker and change his mind and his game plan if it's not working. Because it showed it wasn't working in the second quarter, yet after halftime they came out and played a very similar brand of basketball on the defensive end, leading to them getting demolished. I think it's starting to show the Cavaliers made a mistake in firing David Blatt, who last year, with what most people consider a lesser roster, created a much better defensive scheme that held the Warriors in check and allowed for very close games and 2 Cavaliers wins. That was huge last year, and yet this year, with supposedly a better roster with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love, Tyronn Lue is running a defensive scheme that's getting lit up, and his offensive end is even worse because there's very limited ball movement when it comes to players like Kyrie Irving or Kevin Love. Oh, and speaking of Kyrie Irving, amazing ball hawk. Amazing. He looks like me in pickup basketball. I mean, that dude just continues to dribble, puts his head down, decides to do a couple of flurry moves, step back, chuck up a shot. Amazing basketball, right? No, wrong. I'm sorry, but his Uncle Drew commercials must be getting to his head because it's ridiculously bad basketball. I mean, at one point last night, Kevin Love had Steph Curry on him. Curry decides to switch off of Kevin Love, tells Bogut to cover him. That left Kevin Love 8 feet from the basket, wide open. You know what Kyrie did? He took a contested mid-range 2. Didn't pass him the ball. It was a wide open entry pass to an open player that most people who were watching the game could have easily seen. And yet, he didn't find the open man, and he took a very poor shot that bricked out and then got rebounded. By the Warriors, of course. And of course, that's a single instance last night. There was many times when he should have been passing it more instead of constantly looking for his own shot, but he never did, leading to him getting a single assist. Kyrie Irving, who's technically a point guard, despite the fact that LeBron James plays point forward for most of the Cavaliers' offensive sets, got a single assist. And that's probably his only pass of the game, besides giving it up so he can get a better shot later on. Obviously that's a snide remark, but I mean, Jesus, just pass the ball and run an offense. And on top of poor offense and poor offensive playmaking by Kyrie Irving, he's also a terrible defender. Absolutely trash. How are you going to be able to compensate for such a poor defender who's making poor offensive decisions as well? Is it even worth it to keep him on the floor at that point? In my opinion, not really. If he's going to start to make poor decisions, you need to put in someone like Dellavedova, who hopefully will make better decisions. Despite last night going 2 for 9 and having a pretty poor game, I still think his defense is much, much better than Kyrie Irving's. And Irving didn't shoot much better either, 5 for 14. But I don't want to put all the blame on Kyrie Irving. There's also a ton of blame to go to Tyronn Lue. As I've already talked about, his defensive schemes got lit up, but there's also one more mistake he made in this game, which is playing LeBron James the entirety of the third quarter to try and come back. The problem with playing LeBron James for the entirety of the third quarter was that he wasn't able to be put back in the fourth to try and salvage this game. This led to Golden State pushing the lead to a much higher number with LeBron James out on the bench. And once he was out and their only capable defender, it seemed, despite him having a poor night defensively, in my opinion, the Cavaliers got lit up. And they got blown out. And once the blowout was too big, it didn't matter if he came back in because it was already over. In my opinion, Tyronn Lue needs to look himself in the mirror and decide whether or not he wants to continue with his schemes for this game, for game 3, because his offensive sets aren't being run. In general, they're just not being run. And his defensive sets aren't working. His lineup changes haven't worked either. He needs to figure out what he needs to do with this roster, which is supposedly so talented with 3 All-Stars. Yet they're getting destroyed by the Warriors consistently without Curry or Thompson really having great games. It's looking less and less likely like Cleveland will even win a game, never mind win the series. But game 3 is in Cleveland. We'll see if they can come out with a whole new and improved game plan. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think they can do it? Do you think that Tyronn Lue is making the mistakes for this team, or is it someone else that I haven't seen? Let me know in the comments what you think about last night's Game 2. Also, what your predictions for Game 3 are. And if you did enjoy, please leave a like, subscribe to me, and have a great day.